Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Personal Mastery Training, The Alliance. And today, the Alliance has three. We got Brandon and Dr. Charlie Cartwright. All right, and myself, Alvin Brown. Okay, so as usual, if you're new to this, I like to call us, long ago when I was in university, my minor was in philosophy. I love talking about stuff, why the trees grow, why we stay in the planet. Just I'm always curious about life. So we're like modern day philosophers talking about stuff, talking about life stuff. Our goal, we call ourselves the soul chef. We cook up a little meal for food for the soul, and one of us brings the main meal. Today we collaborated on this one, and the main meal is this: life balance. Is it still a thing that people go for? Or have we got this thing down? It's so controversial, this whole idea of balance in their life. And my starting conversation about that is this. I find too many people, we forget what balance actually means. I think we have this belief that we are, there is the individuals who put in 16 hours a day to do things and forget about family and get just ridiculous. But they are not. That's like saying I know there's a ton of people who are elite athletes. No, they're 1% or 1%. There are not that many people who are actually 16 hours a day. How many do you know? Really, think about it. 16 hours a day. How many people at that level does the average person know? Average. You're talking, if you're doing 16 hours a day, you better be CEO level, running a big corporation. Those are those people I can imagine putting in 16 hours a day. But come on, you're working on the line and you're telling me you're putting in 16 hours a day on the line? Depending on where in North America, I don't think that happens a lot. That's just my opinion. Maybe I'm out of touch with that. So, but balance is literally equidistant, we're connected. It's both sides are level. That means you're working enough and you are playing enough and you are loving enough. That's the idea of balance. But I find we get fooled, and a lot of people just want this weighted thing that I don't work. I work 2 hours a day. We see it all the time. Everyone wants to jump on become a social media influencer. So you don't have to work. You just go and influence and go to hotels and get free stays. And it's got to be a time though that you put in. So I want to talk about that and see what my fellows have to say about that. And then if you out there, remember, we say these things, and we'd love you to take it away and journal on it, think about it in your own life, and maybe some one idea can hit you and just turn things around. So, with that, I'll start there, pass the mic. Someone take a little bit of that. Here we go.
Yeah, this is an interesting topic because it's something that when I travel and I conduct workshops, and the workshops always like to open with three questions just to get the mindset of the group. And one of the questions I always ask is, what are your top three challenges, either personally or professionally, that you're facing in your life right now? And 100% of the time, everyone in their top three will put work-life balance. Everyone. So it's universal struggle. So I think getting our minds around what that means, getting some context around it, and some strategies to overcome it will be very helpful. So one of the things that I remember our mutual mentor, Tom Hill, used to say is work-life balance is a myth, right? He's like, you're never just going to be at this frozen state and everything is perfectly balanced. There's always going to be this give and take and give and take. So you've got to really ask yourself at this time, what does my family need right now? Okay, well, my family needs a little more of my time now. I'm going to push that time over here, right? And then, you know what? My bodies need a little more rest. So I need to push some time over here. And so it's always this balancing act, right? To find an optimal place that you can function your life in. And part of that's communication, right, with your friends, your family, so they know where you're at, so they know what's going on, so they know, hey, they're not being neglected right now. This week, the demands of my job, I'm going to be on the road for 4 days. But hey, all next week I'm in town. So now that all that time that I was on the road, I'm going to be at home so we can spend that time together, either hanging out, doing activities. So it's just something where we got to really approach it that way in a logical manner, and then we can find success through it. But if we get this fixed mindset in our brain, lies in our brain, that we got to have this perfect balance, and if we're not perfectly balanced, we're failing, then we're off on the wrong foot. So we've got to look at it from a practical standpoint and then figure out what that balancing act looks like for us. And with that, I'll pass the mic.
Yeah, I could easily just say ditto and be quiet. Well said, and it's a great topic of discussion to share with some insight with folks and perspective. But the can you hear me, you guys? Okay, good. The not just from a practical standpoint, it's the reality of it, and then you have to look at the outside influences, right? The world tells us today that there's this flat line, right? This life, like this is the standard for what life should be of, and it's this work life balance. And but if you sit back and look at that big picture and here, it's you should be able to take off all these vacations, right? All this time with family. And then, oh, hey, don't forget about your hobbies. And don't forget about your personal fitness. And don't forget about your quiet time. Oh, and hey, squeeze in 8 hours of sleep, right? There isn't any time for work. It must sounds nice. Sounds like a great balance, right? It's actually it's way off, right? And I did not know Tom, your all's mentor that you speak so highly of all the time, but I'm getting to know him through you, and I love that. But I subscribe to the same thought and have for a long time. I don't believe in work life balance. I don't think it's a thing. I think how you described it, Charlie, is absolutely correct. And I think an individual, once you can embrace that and accept that, and you tune out the noise, right, of the world and what they're telling us is the standard, you'll find some peace there. It's always it's a teeter-totter effect is how I describe it. It's always going to lean and tilt one way or the other. And I think it's realistic to have a range, but when it gets way out of range, right, when it tips too far one way, right, now you have a problem. And maybe it is you're focused 100% on family, and maybe you need that in that time. But that communication piece, as you just stated, is so powerful and critical, communicating with your work, right? If that's the case, like, hey, I got this family emergency, right? I've got this health issue, whatever my family, I've been traveling too much. My family needs me. I need a break. But just this expectation, right, of how it's supposed to be, or the other way around. I travel a lot for work, right? And I'm having this, every weekend, my wife and I are talking like, when am I out of town? When are you going to be home? This particular week, I'm not out of town. I'm home all week. I was overnight 2 nights last week. So there is a balancing act is what it is, but actually just that solid, it's even keel, plateaued level all the time. I don't believe that's even possible. It's going to lean. And and I would also even go as far as saying that, let's say you had that perfect balance, right? I would question, one, how exciting your life is, or boring, you know, what are you focusing on? What's your passion, right? What are you putting yourself into? Is it work? Is it home? Is it a hobby? Is it something else? On those scales, so to speak. Because I feel like if it was just this flat line, I don't know. I don't think that'd be exciting, right? And I think it's important as humans. We're built for community. We're built for communication and togetherness, and challenge, right? Men especially, right? I don't want to take women out of the equation, but them as well. But we need a mission to thrive, and and you know that self-worth piece, etc. I mean, I'm going down a rabbit hole here on this whole work-life balance, but I think if you're balanced out, to me that'd be boring. With that, I'll pass the mic.
Amen. Amen. So many really great points here that we all talked about. And back in the day, so one of my favorite songs that back in the day somehow impacted me and drove my behavior today is um Cats in the Cradle, right? We'll get together soon. This guy's so busy at work, whatever his excuse was back in the day. The son asked him to, in case people haven't heard of this song, look it up. It was emotional for me to hear that because I could envision, you know, you're so busy. We'll get together later, son. And all of a sudden, the son, he gets old, the son grows up, and he's now asking the son to, hey, son, let's get together. He said, Dad, I'm so busy. I got work. We'll get together soon. And, eventually never happens. So those things that song really hit me when I was young. It really stayed with me for my entire life. It just, because I didn't have that either, right? That father and so on. So it really hit me, but drove my decision to be the father I am today because I didn't want to sing that song or cry in my car every time I heard that song because it was me. So it drove my decision to be a better, connector, father, partner. But a lot of people I realize that when we think about that, kids don't need, something I always say to people when I work with them, because everyone thinks the kid needs you to be there in their face every waking moment. They don't. You know what they need? 1 hour of you putting your phone away and connecting with them. So this guilt that we feel that if we get that project done, we brought work home because it needs to be done by Monday, but we brought it home and we feel like crap because we feel like we're taking time away. But no, what you do is you put the work away, you carve out the time, put in your schedule. Hey, son, daughter, honey, whoever, let's go to the park. No phone with you, just engage with them at the park. Do you know they remember that 1 hour as opposed to feeling guilty and you never are present because you're worried about work, you're worried about this, you're never where you are. So you're never really enjoying that moment. And people don't need you to be in their face constantly. They just need you to be there when you're there. So, those are the things where people get fooled out by. They get, distracted that I got to be here for, that's why I want to retire and I want to be here with my kid. They're like, can you not go somewhere? I want to be a kid. Like, let's just get out of my face. Right. But when you're there. And so I just find that as Brandon was talking and Charlie was talking, I think the thing is to find passion in everything you do. I think that's what's missing. Finding passion in everything you do. And remember, does this sound impossible? But Alvin, you gotta go do this work. It's impossible. No. I remember back when I was 16 years old and I got my first real job. Other than that, I was picking cherries. I was doing all kinds of little things to make some money. And I got my real job about 15 or so, 15, 16. It was a major company, food company. And I remember them telling us, here's how you clean the floor. You have to sweep it first. Then you have to wet mop, and then a dry mop, and then a second one to just. I didn't know. I remember this. This is like 40 odd years ago. I remember doing everything they told me and just making sure, and some people would just use a dry mop and move the dirt around and then they're out. I used to stand, and I started taking that to everything that I did. Stay and do the little extra. Stay and do the little extra. Then we look back at it. And with your family, how about stay and do the little extra with your family? Stay and do the little extra with your work. Whatever. Just find that somehow we have to find a way to make things that we do passionate. I don't care what it is. Picking up garbage. Well, you do that little extra. Because it's not about the garbage, it's about you doing a little extra. And I think when we start to do that, we get the passion back. Because people are constantly, the problem is I see people, for instance, today, they want to go on another vacation, right? We're comparing ourselves to social media. Everyone wants to live in that, hey, I'm away and here's, look at me, you know, and they post it. I don't know it actually went. Maybe you were fighting with your partner at the vacation, but they showed the 2 seconds that you did take that picture. We don't know how it went, right? So, but everyone, what I see is a lot of people are running from work. I want to go on this vacation, and they're coming back. I don't know if I see them happy when they come back. It's rare. They talk about the vacation, but within another 3-4 days, they're back to. So the goal is, in my opinion, is wherever you are, be there. Do your best to find something. In North America, we're in democratic countries. We're lucky enough to have options. Some countries you don't. And I heard a stat from somewhere that says we are 1%. The people who live like us are 1% with freedom. Some, Dr. Charlie and Brandon were talking about going to a restaurant and having baseball-sized meatballs. And their biggest concern, their biggest concern was, how am I going to eat this all? This is like amazing. This is 1%. So we have to remember where we are. We're, the little things that make us fortunate. And Brandon was talking about being home with his wife. Sometimes he's busy, and he's Brandon and Charlie, right? It is this life bound. But again, I see too many people weigh the staying at home and doing nothing part heavily. I hate my work. We did some research on that. How many people are disengaged at work? And 60% of the workforce is disengaged. They don't like what they're doing. Another 20% they're not disengaged. They're not only disengaged, they hate it. They're actually attempting to sabotage work. And then there's a 20 who get it. They're there and they drive the 80% of the productivity. 60%. So the 10 of us at this job, 6 of you, just Wednesday, hump day, they're happy. Friday, they're excited. Sunday night, they're depressed because they got to go back to, right? 20 of them just disdain work. They're finding ways to hurt themselves so they don't have to go, and whatever it might be. I'm not, not going to judge. But they just don't want to be there. So, and then there's 20 who get it, who realize that, hey, this is putting roof over my head, and I'm going to find the smallest little thing to be excited about coming here and contributing. So, I think that's the deal. And Brandon also touched on this idea that sameness, constantly doing the same thing. I remember someone asked me a question long ago. Alvin, I want you to go to heaven. And I asked her to describe heaven. She told me it's this place where never again, once you get to heaven, never again will you experience any pain. It's all joy every day for eternity. Heaven. So I'm like, wow. Okay, think about that for a second. Eternity. One feeling. Joy every day. So tomorrow I get up, I'm going to be joyful again. Okay. Day 6,000, joyful again. Will I ever know I'm experiencing joy after 6,000 days? It's the same day again. How will I know? You need a contrast. You need something to compare it to, right? So Brandon talked about having some, right? Like Brandon's home. Next week he might not be home, and so we do need that human need. It's a need. We need variety in our life. Every day is predictable. Oh my goodness, jeez. So what Brandon now has to master is being intentional about being present. So when he's home, he's scheduled in, honey, let's go do this. Let's go to the mall. What did you want to do? You want to go look at some furniture? You wanted to move this or do that? Yeah, intentionally. It's in my schedule. Because next week, you won't see me probably for a week or two. I've got a long, busy schedule, but this week I'm here. And then you know what? That partner will go, cool, I get it. But when you're here, you're getting to that honey-do list, right? Instead of, again, getting home. That's where the problem comes. You get home and you're preparing for the next week. You're here today, So, anyways, it's that deal. So with that, I'm going to pass that mic so we can share this.
There's a lot there, right, Charlie?
Yeah, quite a bit. Quite a bit. I think a couple things I want to hone in on. And so that Cats in the Cradle song you mentioned, I hadn't thought about it in a while. And I have it on my phone. It's in my playlist. And a lot of times when I'm traveling, I just have it on random when I'm listening to music. So it'll just skip around, no particular order. And whenever that song comes up, I fast forward through it every time because I heard it when I was a kid. And it's stuck with me. And people that aren't familiar, I pulled up the chorus, right? The chorus says, "And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man in the
Man in
moon.
the
When you
moon.
coming home, Dad? I don't know when. We'll get
We'll get
together then.
together.
We'll have a
Amen.
good time then." And it never happens, right? And then later in life, he's asking his son the same thing, and his son's too busy and,
Yeah, the
got
kids
kids,
and yeah.
his job, and he never sees them. And then he realizes that my boy grew up just like me. My boy is just like me. And
Yeah,
that hits home really hard.
really hard.
And to this day, I think about that. My kids are growing up. And so even now, even though they're growing up, I want to be intentional about the time that I have the opportunity to spend with them. And then also, you mentioned, just it's not like it's hours and hours and hours. It's just a period of time where you can dedicate your time and attention to them. And you can make an ordinary moment extraordinary by doing just a little bit extra, right? That's not what you like, what they enjoy, right? And I think like, just having something, they get in the car and you got their snack that they like, right? Their treat, what's special to them. And it's just one of those things that these little things add up. They remember, right? And I don't know. It's just for me. My son still lives with me, and so we don't have harsh winters here in Kansas, but we do have few months where it's cold and might be some snow in the car, some frost on the windshield. It's one of my favorite things to do because unless I'm on the road, I'm working from home most of the time. One of my favorite things to do is my son's up there getting in the shower, getting ready for work. I go out there and get his car ready, and I'm warming it up. So when he pops out, it's already snow's off of it. The windshield's clear. It's heated up. He just got to jump in there and drive it off. And it's a little thing, right? But I know that years from now, when I'm long gone, he'll still remember that. And maybe he'll, do it for his children one day. But it's just these little things that make something ordinary, like getting in your car and going to work, extraordinary because, someone prepared the way for you, right? And so it doesn't have to be anything real flashy, anything like that. It's just the little things that are thoughtful that, really matter to our loved ones. So with that, I'll pass the mic.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot here. I've got quite a few notes. I'm going to start out with Cats in the Cradle as well. And I'm sure not to be redundant, but it hits home, right? And I've I'm not going to get into a whole lot of my personal story, but I'm one of these guys that in one hand I'm blessed. I have two fathers, and then the other hand I'm also cursed, because they both fit that bill, right? And we're in a good place today as an adult. You know, I'm in my 40s, and it's taken 40 years to get there. But we talk about that song, interestingly enough, and sometimes teased my dad. Either one of them have teased me before. It's like, you know what? They'll call me up and I don't answer. They'll leave a voicemail and they'll talk about that song. It's like, yeah, old Cat's in the Cradle again. Here we are. You know, and it's funny how it's reversed nowadays at this age. And you know, they're in their 70s, and you know, they're closer to the end than the beginning, so to speak. And I'm sure that weighs. Well, I know it weighs on an individual, especially a man and a father. And you know, there's been expressions of guilt and whatnot that they've had over the years, and I've been able to, you know, extend a lot of grace and which is hard, or has been, and forgive too, you know. But it's it's true. And I think what, you know, something you said, Al, and Charlie, and you know, and I wrote it down. You were talking about something else prior, and but it tied into it, and it was intentionality. We have to be intentional. We have to be intentional with ourselves, whether it's work or life, right? Whichever side of the scale, in order to find that passion, right? And I think too many people, they mistake obligation for passion, right? There's this, I'm obligated. I have to go to work, right? This is just my routine, or routine for passion, so to speak, right? It's just the routine of life, whether it's personal or professional. And it's blurred the lines, you know, of what true passion is, you know, what really makes you passionate. And then you talk about the professional aspect of it. There's those golden handcuffs, right? That so many people are stuck in, you know, this 60% that are disengaged, even the 20% that are actively disengaged and damaging to themselves and those around them, the team, the company, the mission, so to speak. They're stuck because of the golden handcuffs. But how miserable, you know, we lose sight of looking in the mirror and the realization of how miserable we are to be in that situation. And maybe that's you listening to this right now. I don't know, but I'd encourage you to look in the mirror and that gut check. There's work out there, right? And also just that obedience and taking that leap of faith and trusting, as I've personally done, without another job, without a plan, knowing it, just having faith it's going to work out. And it does. And tenfold, having been a disengaged employee to a certain level and unhappy and blessed beyond measure today. But yeah, that intentionality piece, when comes with that, is personal accountability. I wrote that down right next to intentionality. You know, that personal accountability of, you know, are you engaged? Are you not? Are you doing the right things at home or at work or in any aspect of your life? Are you following through, the follow through, right? I think about baseball. You always throwing out sports analogy, right? That swing, that follow through. You know, I remember playing when I was a little boy, you know, and you'd hit the ball and you'd stop like right there, right? You know, and it was always follow through and swing around, right? So many times, and I've been guilty of this, and I see it in people around me, is they don't follow through. They'll get to a certain point and stop, right? You know, they'll reach a certain milestone or achievement and stop. Or maybe they don't, they fail. Maybe they don't achieve, maybe they fail, right? They've achieved failure and they stop. Well, man, if you just keep going, you just discovered a way not to do something, right? Just try again. You know, I read something the other day, said it's okay to cuss, just don't ever give up, you know, through it. Right. You know, so it's, we talked last time about a while back about, you know, the one rule on the mountain, right? You ever quit, you know, you give up, you die. So yeah, that intentionality piece. Now, I read something the other day and I actually shared it. And when I heard you guys talking about this a moment ago, and I'm going to pull it up really quick. I thought I had it up. I don't. But it says, there's a quote. I'm not sure who said it. And it just it hit me. And it says, the present is the only place life ever happens,
Mm.
yet it is the place we visit the least.
Ouch.
Yeah, boom, right?
Mm-hmm.
The present is the only place life ever happens, yet is the place we visit the least. And you break that down, whether it's work-life balance. I mean, too right, we're worried, the scales tipped, and we're worried about work and last week and this project coming up next week, and we miss right now, right? Whether it's the opportunity to focus in on what we have to do now, personally or professionally, right? Or the people we're around, the things we get to do. Um, you talked about the selfies and the vacations. Everyone's always like looking at, man, I wish I could do this, right? That's not now. That's not the moment. It's some far off, distant thought, and maybe it's a maybe at best for a lot of people. That they never reach or get to, whether it's a vacation or some sort of physical goal. You're training right now, and you're the 11th hour, so to speak, right?
Mm-hmm.
Almost.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the opportunity, the blessing of, hey, I get to do this. I get to be here. I get to be here right now with both of you, right? Not thinking about, man, I got all this stuff I got to do today, right? But it takes intentionality. It takes recognizing, and identifying what are our passions, not obligations. We all have obligations. It just comes with life. But if that's your only focus, it's a passionate life,
Mm-hmm.
list life. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And then just taking
Yep.
that personal accountability and taking action to make a difference, to change, right? To move
Yep.
towards your goals, whatever that may be. So with that, I'll pass the mic.
Love it. Love it. There's so many goodies here. So many goodies in the spice rack. All right. So first one I'm going to go is Dr. Charlie. And I really want to highlight this one. This is one of the keys here to the solutions. Make an ordinary moment extraordinary. That is it. I'm done. Take care, everybody. But no, that is the one, because here's the thing. When the kids were growing up, we used to love surprising them. So sometimes we wouldn't even tell them. We would, I'll start simple. We'd close the curtains, and I spent a few hours building their slides at the back. We'd close the curtains when they got home. They didn't even know. Then we opened and they saw the slide set, and it'd be, they didn't know it was coming. Boom, there it is in the back. And we'd take them to an airport and say we're gonna pick somebody up or whatever it might be. But then we had tickets for them, and we jumped on this thing. Or we jumped in the car and drove to New York City, Manhattan, Broadway. No, I didn't have any rooms booked. We just found some room. We found a DoubleTree Inn on Broadway, and we stayed there randomly and spontaneously. Those moments, the kids remember those. Build wow, extraordinary moments. So even if you don't have time right now, say you're working a lot and you have a project and you've been away for a month or who knows, weeks. What about, again, intentionality? At the end of those time when the project is over, you spontaneously take your partner, your kids, whatever it is, just skip school this week, this day, whatever, and let's go to the zoo, go to the wherever. I don't know, it doesn't have to be big. Do something really spontaneous, and they remember that. Those wow moments. You build those wow moments. Those make an extraordinary moment extraordinary. Just do something crazy. So that's a great way to have this quote unquote balance, because sometimes you do have to work. I mean, just imagine this fantasy everyone has about life balance, hanging out at home for who knows what. Oh, and Dr. Charlie said he's working from home most of the time. How many people wish they hear that? Oh, that would be amazing. But now, since the pandemic, you hear some people complaining. Oh man, I got being at home all the time. Jeez, it's driving me crazy. I just need to change. I need to be human. When are we going to be happy? We're at work. We don't want to be at work. We want to be home. We want to be. Come on. At some point, something's got to be good. So again, how can Dr. Charlie, for instance, and people like that who work from home? Well, he breaks it up, does something, let's even go and clean the snow off the car for his son. That's like a blessing. I'm at home, I can do that. See, he just made a regular, ordinary moment extraordinary because now I can be home and do that for my son. So, love that. So I think that's the key, one of the keys right there. Um, Brandon talked about two fathers, making a priority. You know, I wrote making it a priority to pick up their call. It's so funny, right? How many of us have this friend or somebody who you're with them and you see them get a call and they're looking and go, I'm not answering that. Right? So now when you call and they don't answer, they're like, you son of a, I'm on that list, aren't I? Right? So then when they call you, you kind of take it easy about answering them. Right? So you don't make it a priority. Then flip side is you have the other ones who you get them all the time. They always, answer your stuff and they always. So when you see their call, even if you're in a meeting, you're like, hang on one second, I just got to get this. Because you made them a priority. And that's what's happening when Brandon talked about his two fathers. Yeah, we have those people. I have family members who, you see the call and you're like, oh, I know what he wants. He doesn't really he wants something. So when you start making things a priority, they start making a priority for you. When you start ignoring them, it comes back. It all comes around. That's how we are, right? And I also love this idea of taking personal accountability, because we do forget that we are the director of this movie. You don't like your work? What is it that do you like then? You hate your work. What do you love? What's the flip side? Then go do that. Have the kahunas to go and do that then. Stop playing around if you don't like work. Stop wasting their time, their money, and everyone else's time and money. Have the guts to go and do what you love then. Think about what you love and go and do that. If you don't do that, then go to work passionately then. Because they're helping you put a roof over your head and food on your table. Because you refuse to go after what you love. Find what you love and go do that. Right? And follow through. Brandon talked about follow through during baseball. Yeah, swing through. That's where the power comes, right? The power comes when you loosely. It happens in boxing too. If you want to keep the metaphor going of sports, whenever I attempted to knock somebody out, or anyone attempts to knock somebody out, you never get it because you're so focused on the one, and you get tight, and they always say punches and bunches because it's the one you don't know that knocks somebody out in a way, because you're so busy focused on the next and the flow. Well, that's what happens too in life, right? The follow through. If you stop short at loving somebody because you don't want to be vulnerable, you've been hurt before, so you stop short. Don't give them a chance. I said here, the passion and everything you're looking for is beyond the swing, is where you follow through, right? That's where the passion comes, because just beyond stopping short of your vision, your goal, your passion is where you're missing the juice. You're missing the juice. And then finally, Brandon said, the present is the only place life happens, but in my book, I call it we time travel. We time travel, spending about, I don't know what number, I'm going to throw a number out there, 10% of our time in the present moment. Most times as we talk, we're either back, by the way, and when we go either way, it tends not to be that great. For instance, if we go backwards, if we're time traveling back, it's usually shame, guilt, resentment. That's how humans are. I mean, it's rare for someone to go back and constantly live in a blissful moment. Most times it's what I didn't do right, and I'm not good enough, and that's what we go back. Forward traveling, typically it's fear and anxiety because we don't know what's coming, the project due, and we're not going to make it, the rent, and the present though is where all life happens. It's a place where you can make change, where you can say I'm sorry, you can sign up for a new course, you can and be engaged, you can be present, you can say I love you, you can connect, it's where all the magic happens, but we tend to wander off and time travel. So the power is in the present. So yeah, so many great things there. There's a ton, of there for those, for listeners. I'm always about, what do we do with this information? How do we put it? Because information is information. How do we put it in play? Well, I would say, to summarize, the big thing is, find passion in what you do. The little things, quote unquote little things. Bring value to what you do. Leave it that when you are not there anymore, they go, "Wow, someone was here." All right, this is beautiful. Picasso. Think about all these artists that we, Michael Jackson. I mean, go any artist who leaves us, they leave us changed. We're talking about this Cats in the Cradle song. Beautiful. This is decades. All of us, decades. We're still talking about it. See, that person left that passion, and it's making a difference. It's resounding. So, yeah. So be intentional. Be exactly where you are. This idea of having balance, it's not. It's a fake out, because we've misconstrued what it means. A balance means a weighted teeter-totter that just, right. You're not dead. If you have, if heaven is just this continuous thing for eternity, I just live in one state. I will never recognize that I'm happy anymore, because I'm just, so tomorrow's the same thing. For thousands of years, I'm gonna do this. No feeling, no hate, love, no pain, pleasure, no up, down, no darkness, light. Same. You have to have this. So we're actually living, the kingdom of heaven is within, and hell too. So with that, I'll pass the mic for some closing addition.
Yeah, my closing thought is, a lot of times when you think about living with passion, or what does that look like, right? What does that look like? How can I live out what Alvin just spoke about? And one of the things I think about with what I do, right? It's a Walt Disney quote, and I do a lot of professional speaking, teach workshops, so a lot of contact with the public, a lot of contact with leaders, a lot of conversations. And Walt Disney said this years ago, such a great wisdom. He said, whatever you do it so well that people will want to see it again and bring their friends.
Mm-hmm.
That sums it up.
Yep.
That sums it up. You can take something ordinary and you do it in an extraordinary way, people will want to see it again. And so it's interesting. And it's amazing how often I get this question as a speaker, but it comes up almost every time, probably 75% of the time. Hey, I know you've probably been asked this question before, but do you still get nervous before you speak? I'm just curious. And, my answer is always saying, of course, that's part of it. Everyone gets butterflies, right? Butterflies in their stomach. But here's the key. The key is to get your butterflies to fly in formation.
Mm.
That's a sight to behold. I mean, if you were driving down the road or walking down a sidewalk and you saw a group of monarch butterflies flying in formation, you'd probably pull over if you're in your car. If you were walking down a sidewalk, you get out your phone and try to get a video or picture and say, I can't believe it. It's the most amazing thing I ever saw was these butterflies flying in formation. Well, butterflies flying is an ordinary thing, but seeing them fly in formation is extraordinary. And so when we bring our passion to our work, our passion to our home, it's extraordinary. So with that, I'll pass the mic.
Yeah, man, another another good morning together, good time together, cooking up a meal, so to speak, for the audience
Mm-hmm.
and listeners. You know, I'll be short. The time travel, thought process, that that activity, because we all do it, and I agree it's not always positive. I would encourage folks to be intentional about if you're gonna time travel, because it's just natural. I think it just happens, right? We find ourselves doing that, what ifing, and when you go down that rabbit hole of what ifing, and it can get really ugly. I'd encourage you to be positive. Find the positive, whether if you're looking back or looking forward, you know. And I really think I'm just going to leave it with this: be present, be in the now,
Mm-hmm.
because that quote, I think it speaks to all of us. It's the least amount of it's the least amount of time we spend in, but it's the only time that's real in the that you get to experience is the now, right? And take advantage of that, embrace it, because you can miss something really important, whether it's work, family, friends, and those opportunities, right? Make an ordinary moment extraordinary. If you're not in the present, you're going to miss that. And with that, I'll pass the mic.
Oh, so many good ones. I had to go and one. Dr. Charlie mentioned that quote. It's one of my favorite too that he mentioned long ago, and I went and quickly looked it up, and the longer version they wrote here is whatever you do, do it so well. Do it so well when people see you do it, they will want to come back, see you do it again, and they will want to bring others and show them how well you do what you do. That is powerful. I love that because that is a whole, for me, that's the whole thing right there. And so, Brendan, a word as you were talking um, that I kind of summarize is leverage.
Hmm.
And I'll tell you what leverage means. If you're home struggling about, I don't have enough time for the kids, I don't have no time for this, I don't have to work, and leverage an hour. And what that means is that hour, if you leverage, if you think about the word, if you leverage that hour, that means you're going to pack as much of you into that hour and fun and wow into that hour that you leverage that hour. It seems like you spent the whole day together
Mhm.
because you just leveraged the hour. Because you can spend 8 hours doing nothing and worrying about worry in that hour that I didn't do enough, I'm not enough, I'm this enough. What if you leverage an hour? When we talk about some people make, you know, a a high note speaker or whatever it is, or some a CEO, they make millions of dollars in the hour. Some people make $15, $10,
Yeah.
$1. The hour is same hour, but the leverage of it. So what if we did that with time and quality of time? Leverage the hour. This time that we spend together, it's leveraged. It's a great time because we leave better than when we came. See, that's leveraging time as opposed to hanging out, watching whatever you call it. It might be something to me, anyways. It's might be mindless, but to you, it might be something. But hopefully, whatever it is, you leave that hour better than when you came. Let's put it that way. So leverage
Yeah.
would be my word.
That it may seem like, for those listening, an hour may seem like a really long time. Like, I don't have. Hey, start small.
Yeah,
15 minutes,
yeah,
right? 5 if you have 30,
yeah.
right?
Leverage it.
Yeah, leverage some amount of time. None of
Some
us can make time. You got to take it, right? You got to schedule it out.
24 for everyone,
That's right. That's right.
but some people manage to leverage that 24 and they get everything done. Again, we're gonna end here, but I think it was Pareto time. There's time allotted. If we say we want to get something done in a month, that's exactly when we get it done. Work fills the time allotted for it. That's what it is. So, all right, Dr. Child, did you have your one word? Did you want to get a one word in before we close this out?
Yeah, I'm going to go with extraordinary.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Amen. Done. No need to add to that one. So I think hopefully we've given you, listeners, one idea, one little nugget that will make you take this away and relieve your stress about achieving this life balance that's elusive life balance that we chase relentlessly. So hopefully one idea in this that makes you go out Monday morning and go to work and go out of 8 hours. Imagine being intentional for half of it, and you're just crushing the biggest goals you have or the biggest on your task list and just crushing it. I remember, imagine going home at the end of that day and going, "Hey kids, let's go for a walk to the park." And I'm leaving my phone. I'm gonna chase you on the merry-go-round. I'm gonna chase you on those little slide things. And for half an hour, not a lot, I'm gonna chase you. Tickle, chase, swing, whatever it is. It's your half hour, whatever it might be. Then you come home and they're free to go off and play, leave you alone, and then you can. No, just imagine. So that's what I'm talking about. Stop chasing this elusive balance piece and just be present. So with that, I think you should have enough. Re-listen, like, subscribe, share. It's all about mastering you, and that's it. All right, until next time, fellas. What do we wish everybody?
Right.
Peace. We need it so badly, and a lot of what? Love with a sprinkle of
The soul.
Ooh, that's what we're talking about.